and I've gone so far as becoming specialized as a trial specialist to the National Board of Trial Advocacy, and I can truthfully say that I am a specialist, and that means that from the standpoint of trying cases, once the time comes, if I am elected, that I'll be able to start work August 1st. And that will mean being able to handle cases from traffic matters on intake through the criminal matters, and that I've handled, and that has been everything from minor shoplifting cases all the way up to homicide cases. That I have actually tried cases, not just handled cases, and there is an important distinction. And I also, from the standpoint of civil matters, would be very qualified from the standpoint of not only representing individuals like yourselves, board members in both St. Croix County as well as 3 of the northern counties, but have also handled environmental claims and traffic claims and claims where individuals have put their faith in me to try to solve the tragedies that have come to their lives. I also teach, and I teach at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Law School every other year and teach criminal law, as well as seminars throughout the state with the Bar Association, with the Trial Lawyers Association, the State Public Defender's Offices, and the Wisconsin Towns Association. And so it's a matter of the gray hair, I think, signifies also some patience and some knowledge and common sense that would be applied, and I will do that. And I want to work for this county, and I want to work hard for it, as I have done for all my clients. So I would ask for your consideration, and I certainly appreciate the time that you've given me to come here again tonight. So any questions that anyone has? Okay. Thank you very much.
We're good.
Thanks.
Thank you. The floor is also open to any residents that have any comments dealing with issues which are not on the agenda.
My name is Kurt Weiss, and I live at 613.
Here we go.
I thought I had it on. Does that mean you have to give a speech again, or the mic wasn't on? I live at my name is Kurt Weiss, and I live at 613 Cedar Drive North in North Hudson. And I appreciate the board letting me speak tonight. I just want to address a couple of things about I understand that the library board is going for an advisory referendum in April, and I appreciate you giving me this explanatory statement. I hadn't seen this before, but a couple of things I was just trying to clarify. I just want to make sure, because from looking at the total dollar figure, it looks like our amount will be over $150,000. Am I assuming correctly that the village residents will ultimately will decide whether or not North Hudson participates in this because it's over $150,000 threshold? Is that correct, or?
Are you talking about the operating costs or the capital?
Capital.
Yes.
Okay, so there will be if it does go forward,
there will be another referendum.
There will be another referendum, a binding referendum by the citizens of North Hudson, correct?
And
okay.
And as I understand it, all the other 3 as well.
And then the other 3 as well? Okay.
Because this is a non-binding referendum.
Right. Well, I wasn't assuming that they would do the same, but I was just making sure that we would. Two more things. The other thing, I see this at the bottom, private fundraising efforts will be undertaken. And I guess I just caution the board that, I don't know how much they've raised, but I don't think it's very much privately. And I would caution the board not to proceed with any votes or anything until the private funds are raised. And the people who are advocating for the new library have shown that they truly support with their donations, which I don't know what they're looking to raise, but half of this $9.5 million, so it's quite a bit that they're going to have to raise. And I'm just asking as a resident, because I've seen the private funding promise fall through and some other stuff, and taxpayers have to pick up the bill. But the real reason that I'm here, I'm trying to understand this explanatory question, or it's not this question, it's the statement. And it says, based on current budget estimates, the public funding would result in an approximately $72 annual tax for a home with an assessed value of $300,000. Now, I'm under the impression, and I think I'm correct, that this is in addition to the current tax. And I think that this statement is wrong. And I can be corrected at any time if you want to correct me on this, but I think that this statement as it's posed right here is incorrect. It's factually incorrect. And I'm asking that if the village board would see fit to change this statement to read approximately additional $72. Is that something that the board might entertain? And am I correct in saying that this is additional money? This is the way this is worded. Someone would read this and think that my total tax for the library is going to be $72 if my house is assessed at $300,000, and that is incorrect. This is additional tax on top of what they're already paying. I don't know if anyone would like to address that, or
Your assessment is correct. We can't, during this period, you can address and make whatever comments you want.
okay.
We just can't engage debate because somebody on the other side of the issue can't be here to provide their perspective. But you can certainly speak to whatever is in that document that was handed out.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a debate. I mean, it's a fact. I'm just trying to. Says the public funding would result in approximately $72 annual tax, and it's wrong. And I know you can't really put that. I know the ballot question is set in stone, but I don't think the explanatory statement is set in stone. And I'm just asking the board to change that so that it's good to be honest about the fact that it's going to be additional tax dollars, not just $72 a year. So that's what I'm hoping that the board will see fit to do prior to the referendum. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on. Lake Malibu Dam Agreement. This agreement is something that was recommended, came out of a what's the name of the group? The group consists of Hudson, North Hudson, the Townships School District. But in particular, that group at its meeting a couple months ago had expressed some concerns over the maintenance costs associated with Lake Malibu Dam, which are divided between the county, the city, the village, and the township of Hudson. And at that time, the group had decided that they wanted to have some kind of a fixed dollar limit on that, on how much that amount could be per year, without coming back to the group first. To say, for example, a couple of years ago, the cost was like $29,000, which a number of some of the municipalities were not aware that the number was going to be that much larger. So the city. So a motion had been advanced and approved by the intergovernmental group that a fixed dollar amount, I believe it was $11,000, would be the amount that could not be spent on maintenance without coming back to each of the respective municipalities. The city of Hudson had called and requested just to change the language in that motion. So that it would be so not more than a 10% increase from year to year. Then that 10% increase would be shared. Okay. So, for example, if the normal cost is $11,000, if it was going to go up by 10%, that'd be roughly another $1,000. You divide that between the county and the city and the village, and our portion would be roughly $200-300. Okay. The city had just requested that we not act on this motion tonight, but rather wait until they revise the language, and then they're going to bring it back to the intergovernmental group. So I would make a motion to table action on the Lake Malibu Dam agreement until the city refines the language pertaining to that agreement. Okay. So there's a motion to table. Are there any questions on that? Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right. Next item is rescinding, it's ordinance 01, which means first ordinance 2008. Ordinance rescinding section 62.3. It looks, if you're looking at the handouts, it sometimes might look a little complicated. What we're trying to do is actually quite simple. Within the current ordinance book, there's a whole set of fees primarily associated with building permits. What does this cost? What does that cost? And every time the village changes one of those numbers, we literally have to then contact a group in Florida and have the book reprinted in that section. What this does is it takes that section out, and it will then become a resolution, which the board can then just act on, so we don't have to reprint the ordinance book. Okay, that's the effect of what this is. It's not an attempt to change any fees or any of the other schedules. It just takes that piece out, sets it over here so the board can deal with it whenever it needs to change it and get on with business. And it saves us about $1,000 because every time we ask the organization down in Florida to reprint that section, it's $1,000. So this little motion here could easily save us $2,000 to $4,000 a year.
Larry, can you tell us the difference between the one that was on our desk this evening and the one that was in the book?
No.
Okay.
Somebody else?
Yeah. Between that
Will
time,
somebody else, please?
there was changes to it.
Okay.
I'll move approval of 01-2008 ordinance.
There you go.
62-3 schedule fees, deposits, penalties. In the village code book.
Okay.
Second.
Were the changes material?
Yeah. They needed to happen. The bottom statement that talks about cross-referencing included
Oh,
a couple of, like 4 other chapters in the book. And
Okay.
I think,
But with respect to what we're accomplishing here is, again, all we're doing is taking that fee schedule, which frequently gets changed during the course of a year.
correct,
That's really the only piece that's coming up.
correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions on this? I think we'll need a roll call vote on this. Anybody else have any questions? I'm sorry. Moved right on. If not, we'll start on this end of the table. Jim?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Larry, yes. George?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, we're going to move down to the park board. And in particular, we're going to drop down to item C, which is Veterans Memorial. John Helgeson, who is a member of the park board, wanted to address the residents as well as the board with respect to the issue of the Veterans Memorial associated with the new building. So, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For the record, my name is John Hudson. I live on 634 10th Street North in the village. I'm a member of the Village Park Board, and I'm also here representing Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 2115 and American Legion Post 50, both of which I'm a member. For a background, former village trustee Gene Shefflin first suggested some form of Veterans Memorial when he was chair of the Park Board. Original thoughts were a flagpole and some kind of monument in Webster Park. While the Park Board discussed the concept, the Village Hall renovation project got underway. During planning for the renovation project, the Park Board was approached about having a Veterans Memorial included in the Village Hall project. The memorial would be more visible at the Village Hall than Webster Park, and the memorial could be incorporated into the design of the new Village Hall. Trustee George Klein met with the Park Board during discussions about the memorial concept. The design concept was incorporated into the entrance to the remodeled Village Hall. It is the 3 flagpoles in the island surrounded by the steps and handicapped access ramp to the building. Future steps. The Veterans Memorial can be as simple or ornate as funds permit. During initial discussion with Village Board members, the Park Board, and my discussion with veterans organizations, a decision was reached that no tax dollars would be used for the memorial. The Veterans of Foreign Wars and American Legion posts serving the area have been briefed on this project. They are willing to donate funds and help raise funds for this project. Before they begin any fundraising, the posts would like to reach an agreement with the village as to how the funds raised will be handled. It is the recommendation of the organizations that the funds be collected, be deposited into an account set up by the village, and the village monitor the expenditures from the fund. The minimum decoration of the memorial would be the 3 flags, United States, State of Wisconsin, and POWMIA, that are currently being flown or procured, and the seals of the 5 branches of the U.S. Armed Forces, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Cost of the seals from one source would be $334 each, plus shipping and mounting. The day after I prepared this and gave it to Gloria, I got the new catalog in the mail, and the cost of each of those seals has gone up $20. Flags are an ongoing expense as they must be replaced as they become worn. My estimation that this will require at least $2,000 be raised. Further additions to the memorial would depend upon the level of financial support from the community. The veterans propose to raise funds by selling memorial tags for donations. The donations cover the cost of the tags and a place to display them, and a significant part of the donation would go toward the memorial itself to cover items making up the memorial and ongoing cost. The display would be in the Village Hall lobby or some other visible location in the hall. There could be several sizes of tags to reflect different levels of donations. Veterans could solicit donations from businesses in the area and by personal contact with other veterans or their families. We could also place news items in the local media and the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post publication. The tag display could be integrated with a flag display of United States and POWMIA flags procured by the North Hudson Police Department. These flags are currently deployed with troops in Iraq. I believe a goal of $10,000 in donations should pay off costs to construct and maintain the current monument, purchase and add service seals, and build a memorial display. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
If I understand what the groups would like, which I have, and by the way, I thank them for their support and their doing this. I think it's a great project. I'm assuming all they're asking for is that we create a designated fund within the general fund that would need whatever dollars go into that would be designated for that reason, could be used only for that reason, and that as expenditures occurred related to that Veterans Memorial, they would be expended for that reason and no other reason.
That is correct.
Okay. That is easy to accomplish.
And I believe George had mentioned that the cost that we're looking at already incurred is in the neighborhood of $5,000. Is that correct?
I think the number was 6.
6? Okay.
But
That's-
that was good, John.
That seemed to be the number I remembered
Yeah.
from last winter and last spring, and that's why the
Sure.
total amount that I was
I
looking
did
at.
check
as a
with
goal.
Derek Construction on that, and I forwarded that
Yeah.
to Colleen. And that was the number that Chad Derek gave me.
Okay.
Assumption that the work plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. So then can I make the motion to approve the Park Board's request for John Helgeson on behalf of the Park Board to solicit veterans organizations for donations for the Veterans Memorial at North Hudson Village Hall?
I gladly second that, Colleen.
Are there any questions on that?
John, when will this begin, the fundraising?
Whenever you tell us that you're ready to have us do it.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed,
Go
same
for it.
sign. Motion carried. You can go. You may begin, I should say.
Tell him to go.
All right. That was meant to be somewhat humorous, John. I literally did not mean for you to go. I meant you could launch your project.
I may have some live ones out on the street as we speak.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
And thank you
John.
to your groups for volunteering to do this. It's a great idea.
Do it.
Good. Okay, coming back to Plan Commission. There is a recommendation in your minutes under the Plan Commission regarding the extraterritorial certified survey map application for John Langfeld. Since there's no one here from the Plan Commission, I would move that the village board approve of the 4-lot CSM for John Langfeld in the town of Hudson. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
And just to let the board know that I did get confirmation from the county that the surveyor has looked at it and is recommending approval. And also the building inspector had no issues with it.
Just for purposes of summary, the CSM, the individual who owns a section of land in the township, which falls within 1.5 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction of the village. Therefore, we have to also approve it along with the county, as well as the township. And so our approval to some extent is a formality, although in the past sometimes it has been of a material nature. And John Langfeld currently has a single lot, which he's breaking up into 4 additional separate lots. So that's all he's requesting is the opportunity to do that. The township has no trouble with it. It's already been through his planning and zoning commission. The village building inspector has looked at it. We have no issues with it. So we have a motion and a second to approve it. Other questions?
Does you want to say anything to the motion before we vote?
Pardon?
Do you want to say?
I don't have to say anything, it sounds like
Okay.
it's got it under control.
You
Is it fairly accurate?
just looked like you were, come on, let me say something. Okay.
You're more than welcome to.
No, I just, I don't have anything to add to what you, if you need some documents for your record, that you have, email from the county surveyor, they can sign his approval.
Mhm.
And I have a signed copy of the map from the town, so they can find their approval if you want those for your records.
They're already a part of the record.
And I also brought the original
More maps?
Yeah, you'll need to sign his original. The only thing I'll say is that once it's recorded, we will need that recorded,
A copy of it.
yep,
Okay.
document.
Do I need to sign that tonight? Or is it afterwards?
After you guys approve the motion.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Nothing else from the Plan Commission? Finance? The Finance Committee has recommended approval of the non-recurring claims for the months of December and January. Gotta find them. They came in late.
You want me to make the motion?
If you would, please.
Move that we pay our bills. Oh, the motion is to approve the December 2007 non-recurring claims totaling $1,954.00, and also to approve the January 2008 non-recurring claims totaling $100,168.07.
Second.
Questions or comments regarding the claims?
As we did in finance, Larry, would you like to just make a comment on why the January is 100,000 plus?
There's new lights in the village hall.
Is that what it was? Okay. Cost of light bulbs?
It was of the 101,000, 84,000 approximately was the payments on the village hall for the construction related to it. That's why it's so high. Just in case anybody looks at the numbers, thinks we've gone nuts. We have not. Well, I suppose the one could be debated, but okay. We'll do a roll call vote. All in favor of paying the bills? Start on this end. Mark?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Larry, yes. Okay.
While we're on this page here that we're all looking at, the submitted by might be a new name for most of the board members, and maybe Gloria would like to comment on that.
I'm sorry. What are we discussing?
The name at the top where it says submitted by Lynette
Oh.
Heise? Heise? Is that it?
She is our new deputy treasurer. She started on Monday and doing a great job so far, and overwhelmed, of course.
What is Lynette's last name?
Heise
And she lives where?
in Hudson.
Resident of Hudson. Good. Super. Okay. Moving on to Public Works. Mark, you got something?
Yeah, there wasn't anything of significance. Wrapped up the Station Circle and Summer Landing project. That should be as per budget. The only other item that I think the board should be aware of is that the utilization plan for the old Public Works property should get going here pretty soon. And Kevin Oyem from Cedar Corp is putting together a plan for a few parking spaces and green space to bring back to Public Works. So I think if anybody has any desires on what they'd like to do with that piece of property, which is where the old Public Works building was, should speak now or forever hold your peace.
How many parking spots are being kicked around?
I think it says 5 to 10 parking spots. Okay. And it's going to be a matter of budgeting.
Sure.
And then we're hopefully contact a couple of neighbors and see what they might like. But I think the objective is get something in place so that by summer it looks a little better than it does now.
Good.
Other than that, that was it.
Okay. Public safety, George?
Quite a few things tonight. And I'd like to recognize that the chief made it here just in time. Boy, timing is everything, Mark. And thank you for that. He's been in another meeting. As you look at your public safety special meeting minutes, you'll notice the municipal court report on warrants. There is extensive documentation for you to see how successful this program has been. As a reminder, what this is the judge has instituted, Judge Ben Wopat has instituted a program. It's actually called TRIPS. I believe the acronym is actually, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong on that, TRIPS. Is that correct? Correct. And what this is, anyone who has an outstanding warrant and decides to shrug that off, even after being advised that it would be in their best interest to pay that, what that does is any refund that they might have gotten from the state will be diminished somewhat to cover the cost of the fine. And you'll notice as you look in the public safety section, go towards the it's one of the, I think it's the last page, and you'll notice that this is a report from Judge Wopat on how successful this program has been. If you have any questions on that, either Mark or I will be glad to answer them. There is another item that, just a minor correction, if you go to page 2 of our meeting minutes, it says St. Croix County Siren Monitoring Proposal, and Mark is getting ready to talk to you about that. The correction is at the beginning of the second paragraph. Richard stated that he checks the North Hudson siren every Wednesday at 11 a.m. It's actually the first Wednesday of every month. He doesn't go out there, stare up, look at it, and wonder why it's not spinning on the second Wednesday of the month, because it's not supposed to. So it's the first Wednesday. I mention this, and I kind of make a little joke about it for anybody who hears that siren going off. Check the calendar. If it's the first Wednesday of the month and it's 11 o'clock in the morning, it's supposed to go, and it's a test. Now, on your the agenda for tonight's meeting, you'll notice that there is an item that says St. Croix County Siren Monitoring Proposal, and this is what Mark is he's prepared to speak on that issue right now. Discussion and approval requested. We are not requesting any approval tonight at all. In fact, it's just a discussion item. So, Mark, would you talk to the board about this issue? You do have documentation on it, and while Mark is getting ready, I'll just ask you to turn to that in your books, and you'll see right at the top it says St. Croix County, Wisconsin. And, Mark, it's all yours.
I think the letter is somewhat self-explanatory. The only thing that I guess I wanted to get up and discuss with you would be just more of the specifics to how this program, or at least my understanding of how this program is going to work. I've had several conversations with the Emergency Communications Director at St. Croix County, who has been tasked with putting together the survey that you have in front of you. It's the fourth page of the packet that includes the letter. And we've been asked, or I've been asked as the Emergency Management Director for the village, to send back our response to this survey. And if you'll notice, the survey basically asks whether or not the village would be interested in participating in a program where the county would purchase from the city of Hudson a monitoring system that would allow them to document whether or not the siren worked and give it feedback on the times and whatnot that the siren worked. To give you a little bit of background, not too long ago, about 9 to 10 months ago, we installed a brand new siren up on Lemon Street near the water tower. That siren has in it a receiver. It's just a box, and the communication center, the government center, can send out a tone. The receiver realizes that that's the tone that it's supposed to hear. It then activates the siren. The siren runs for 3 minutes, constant. After 3 minutes, it shuts down. There is no mechanism in that tower to transmit a signal back to the emergency government center to say, I did activate, I ran for 3 minutes, and now I'm stopped. There's no mechanism in place for that. The government center or St. Croix County's Emergency Management Committee feels that that's important, that information be obtained and recorded. I think, from what I understand, it's a liability issue that they're trying to cover for themselves as far as their sirens, and basically they've said municipalities were also interested in offering this to you. Obviously, there's some cost savings to that, trying to spread out the costs over several municipalities. From what I understand, they understood, or the statement that they've made is they understand that in 2008, nobody's budgeted for this. And so for the county to try to help offset some of those costs, one of the two options, if you choose yes, is that they would pay for all of the transition and all of the, whatever it would cost, all the expenses to bring us on board, with the idea that in 2009 we would then budget to pay them back, to reimburse them for whatever the cost would be for the village. Kind of a long story, a lot of little parts, and so I'm trying to walk you through this. I've lived it for some time now. With that transmitter, or with that one computer software system that would gather all this information and record it, that would be part of the process they would be purchasing from the city of Hudson. What they're asking us to do is to equip our siren with a transmitter. We have one siren, and we would have to purchase one transmitter. Well, according to the information, they had someone go out and do a survey of all the sirens in the county. And according to their information, it was not correct at first, and I corrected them on it. We have a federal siren. It's a federal rotating siren. That's what the FED-ROT stands for on this list. And the materials, that transmitter basically would cost $2,840. Now that's above the $12,000 or the $14,000 we spent to install the siren. It would be an additional $2,840 with $500 worth of labor. That would be just installation of our transmitter and the labor to go with it. So we're at about $3,200 there. They have listed installation of CompUlert monitoring system in the dispatch center as $7,700. And then the shared cost between the 21 sirens throughout St. Croix County, it would cost us $366 on top of that $3,200. So we're roughly $3,500. Next small portion. That is if every municipality within the county decides to buy into the system and spend the money to upgrade their sirens with that transmitter and to help with the cost. Talked to the emergency communications director this afternoon, and there are two municipalities, Woodville and Hammond, who have already said they're not interested in participating in the program. Thus, we go from 21 sirens to 19 sirens. Let me rephrase. Hammond has 3. Woodville has 3 as well. So I'm sorry, we go from 21 sirens to 15 sirens. So now that $7,700 gets divided by 15 instead of by 21. And there are still a couple of municipalities who have not yet answered the survey, which includes us. We are only 1 siren, but all of those things impact the final cost. When we talked about it at the Public Safety Committee, the concern at this point really is one of 2 things. One, what's the cost really going to be? What is the bottom line? We need to know, and I kind of tongue-in-cheek at the last Emergency Government Committee meeting, I said, we don't want to be the first ones to say yes. We want to be the last ones to say yes, so we really know how many ducks there are in this row. And they basically said, we just want to know who's interested so that we can get this project going so that by the time our storm season comes around, we'll have this in place. The other side of it is, do we really need this? I mean, do we really need to be able to monitor this? George brought up the fact that the first Wednesday of every month at 11 o'clock, I do go out, I get in my car, and I drive up, and I sit underneath the siren, and I watch it go around to make sure it goes around, and I listen to make sure that it's making noise. We do have, it doesn't take that much time out of my day. It's a 10-minute trip, round trip. I get to see the sites, those types of things. I don't have a problem doing that. If I'm not in the office, if I'm at training or I'm in a meeting or I'm on a call, my admin assistant, Becky, enjoys getting out and doing the same thing, or Mark Ekblad, actually last week when we had it, went out and took care of it for us. So we have the mechanisms in place that we know that it works on its testing day. I think the only thing that might be beneficial to it is on those storm evenings when there is, a storm coming through and it's activated because of the whatever the criteria are at the government center. We would have a record of the fact that it went off. I guess I could probably let George say this, but George brought up at the public safety meeting, we could have a record if we went up to Bob on the corner of Lemon and Michelson and said, "Bob, did you hear the siren?" And he says, "Yep, I heard the siren." We've kind of got our own recording system as far as the neighbors go too. So I've been asked to respond to this survey, and George said we're not here to make a motion or anything tonight, but I'm looking for some feedback from the board as to what direction they'd like me to, or which box really to check as far as our interest in it. And I think hopefully you've had an opportunity to read the survey. I talked to the emergency communications director today about basically if you answer yes to A, or if you check yes to A, which is we would be interested in participating in a countywide siren monitoring system and would like to find out additional information as to the exact cost associated with upgrading our sirens, we would then basically need to answer or check 1 or 2, whether or not we're interested in just paying for it outright on our own, or if we're interested in basically having the county pay for it, a short-term loan with no interest, and then we would pay it.
Would that be a one-time fee?
Yeah, from what I understand, yes, it would be a one-time fee. There's no maintenance costs to it that they've at least brought out at this point.
To me, it seems like an awful lot of money to automate something that we currently do manually.
I would say no to it.
Okay.
I think with the fact that we just put in a new system, it would have been wonderful to know about this beforehand, and we could have wired in for it and possibly eliminated or at least reduced at $2,840 and possibly the $500 too. And I strongly feel that just with the village charm and character, I don't want to make it seem like Andy of Mayberry, but I would give neighbor Bob a log sheet and say, as a good citizen, Bob, would you mind writing down the times and the dates that it goes off?
It isn't that it wouldn't even be wonderful to do if you had a chance to do it. Because with the transmitter, if it doesn't happen to go off, you only find out about it afterwards.
Right.
And we usually do anyway. We have one here. I really feel for us it's pointless. It'd be pointless to be involved in the program for the county's liability.
Well, I think
Who cares?
in participating in the intergovernmental agency, what they're looking for is what Mark hit on earlier, is
A little more
liability.
money. Yeah.
Well, no, they're looking for liability, so that if there was a tornado and somebody said, hey, I didn't hear the siren, I didn't get away, you've got the substantiated, report that says, yes, it did go off. Whether or not Bob's signing off on it would be enough. I don't know, but I agree with you, Mark. I'm not for this. I think that our current siren is absolutely adequate.
There's another issue here, too, and that is that, you can get a signal back that says it went off, but if nobody heard it, did it go off? The signal could have been generated that it went off, but that doesn't mean that it did. I would much rather rely on somebody's ears and observation that it went off.
It all goes back to how safe can we possibly make everybody? God.
It seems to me the majority are for option B, so I will mark the box and send it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Another item that I want to share with you, and only because a date is coming up, is the St. Croix County Mass Notification System. I have no doubt that you looked this over, and there is an invitation here that any board members who would like to attend on March 19th at 4 o'clock can go up to the community room of the Government Center and hear about the St. Croix County Mass Notification System. It looks like a program that would be an adjunct to the one that we currently have, where we would notify people about refuse pickup or whatever. This is more of an emergency situation. Is that right, Mark? Would you like to?
Yeah, it is, and I think Jim and I have actually looked through it, and if you could remind me the name of the program that we have.
XM Voice.
XM Voice. It's basically an expanded, self-contained XM Voice system. Instead of having that system set up in, I think, Florida, wherever it's located, it would be a server at St. Croix County in their emergency communications center that would be able to do the exact same thing. It would take whatever database of numbers that we wanted to put into it and let us use it for whatever purposes that we would want, whether it be a child be missing, if we wanted to notify them of garbage pickups or leaf pickup, and I'll invite you to the meeting because it really is there's a large amount of information that this program can do. Again, it's a situation where the county is very interested in going in on this, and they're looking for some partners to help with the costs as well as to get some benefit from the same program. So I will be attending the meeting on March 19th at 4 o'clock, even though I've already seen the presentation, so that if there's anybody that wants to sit with me and we can kind of discuss how it might benefit the village of North Hudson, if we're interested in doing this, we can definitely take the time to do that.
At least from the material that I read, it looks like it essentially is a duplicate of what we've already procured.
It is, and I think in more of a grand scale. I mean, we have about a 25-second maximum before we start getting charged a certain dollar amount per minute. This system is a little bit more robust in that you can send out multiple minutes of information. It also sends out emails, text messages, any basically electronic communication it will just talk with. You can type in the message, it'll read it back, you can leave a voice message. There are a number of different things. It will also, and I think the XM system does the same thing, will document for you whether or not those calls were received, because the people on the other end have to basically push the button that I received the message, press 2, or whatever the case may be. You can do surveys on this system, which is not part of the XM system. If the village board wanted to ask a 9-question survey on something with up to, I think, 5 answers per question, I mean, there's a lot of other features that go beyond what the XM system can do.
My first thought was it seems like with a lot of this technology, suddenly, capabilities exist. My telephone can now talk to my dishwasher, okay? And that's wonderful, I guess, if my telephone or dishwasher gets lonely. But it just seems like this is overkill. I mean, we have the ability to send out a message, and admittedly, it's 20-second limitation, or we'd have to pay more. Or we could turn around and send out a second message. Okay, and we're with the new website, we'll have the ability, for example, to do surveys because it'll be interactive. So I don't see us sending out text messages. To the extent people want us to call on their cell phones, all they can do is give us a cell phone and we'll call them.
Right. And I think that's one of the
I
drawbacks.
appreciate that the county is preparing to spend how much money?
Ironically enough, the range on that proposal was $20,000 to $40,000, and they were hoping to have by March 19th a better number.
And I think we spent how much?
50, was it 50, or maybe if that?
$600 for the next 2 years.
That was like 20,000 minutes or some number.
More than we'll
Or
use.
20,000 calls we can make.
Sure.
So we're probably set for at least 3 to 4 years, is my guess. Okay, for $60.
And I agree. And also, that 20 seconds helps keep George's messages.
Well, and that was part of the original plan.
Right.
If I could just shed a little light on this with the board and just two things.
Be our guest.
Mark and I did meet before I went on vacation, and we did talk about this. The most important part of the system working or not working properly is the data that you put into it. And we're on the leading edge of this. We're in great shape. We don't need to do anything at this point. But ultimately, we had talked about sending out information card to all of the residents indicating what number we have on file for them. If they would rather have their cell phone number or some other number programmed in, we're happy to do that, and it's very easy to do. Secondly, our system, we're underutilizing it because people could be asked, if you want to respond, hit 1 or 7 on your phone. But at this point, Gloria does not need to have any more tasks dumped on her plate. So we are just simply using it for messaging. I think that's, keep it simple, stupid is the philosophy we need to go by at this point. Thirdly, I was at the Intergovernmental Agency when Buck Malik brought this presentation up, and did talk to Mark about it. And they are at the infancy part of this whole thing, and they basically reached into their shallow bag of options, and nobody there had even heard of XM Voice. And I think that there is a lot of research that needs to be done on their part and on our part before we would say yes to participating in this. Because when you invest in technology, it unfortunately becomes obsolete so quickly, and then you're faced with things like the siren deal where now we need to spend X amount to do this. And my initial thought would be to say no, but I'm going to go to this meeting too, so I'll have a little more to report, and I'll tag along with you, and
Sure.
We'll see what we can ascertain.
Thank you.
Don't sit down yet, Mark. There's one more item, and I'd like to, for those who may not have seen it in the Hudson Star Observer last week, don't go away. There was an article on the front page, had to do with cell phones and kids, parents beware. What caught my eye, however, what was inside was a picture of our friendly chief of police. And I hold this up to the camera so that you can see it. Mark was also on Channel 5 twice, talking about the issue of children, in this particular case, children who got a wrong number, or a wrong number was dialed, the kids picked up, and it ended up being a not-so-nice person who ended up being arrested. And Mark, I'd just like to commend you for the way that this whole thing came down and the way you functioned. Mark had an hour to pull this together. And I just wondered if you wanted to use this as a forum once again to just notify parents about being very careful about their children's cell phone use.
I'll give Meg Heaton quite a bit of credit as well. I think Meg and I had talked about how we can present this case in a way that we're not going to impact the outcome of the case, but also to get some of the safety ideas out. And so Meg did a fantastic job of taking the information I provided to her and putting it into that article. And it was that article that then bounced into Channel 5's coverage of it. But basically, the article describes it in very good detail in the fact that cell phones nowadays have become just another opportunity for predators or people who want to prey on very innocent victims as a way to access them. I mean, we talked about it on the news program, but you deal with text message or you deal with the internet, and we all have learned how to set up your parent controls and all those types of things on the internet. But I think one of the things that we overlooked are that more and more kids are getting cell phones nowadays, and with text messaging, when there is not a face at the other end of that text message, sometimes you don't know who you're talking to, and they can be just as dangerous as those predators on the internet. So we provided some options, some email or some websites that people can go to for parents to protect their kids and cell phones, as far as setting up what times their cell phones can be used, who they can and can't text message, who they can receive phone calls from, and it really provides with a safety net to try to help protect kids. We understand that the cell phones have to be used basically for convenience, to make sure your kids can get a hold of you, you can get a hold of your kids, but there's a lot of ways to be able to protect now your kids, and with all the different technologies that are coming out there. So thanks, George.
Thank you, Mark.
Nice job.
Okay. Thanks, Mark, for that information and for everything you do, and the guys and the gals. All right, let's see.
You got one more thing, village update? Village hall update?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this will wrap it up for public safety and for, I guess this will be the last item, the village update. What you've seen, if you're watching this on TV, is a dark background. Whenever somebody was up against up to the microphone, you saw a dark background. I would ask the fellows in the control room if they could swing their cameras to take a look at our new voting booths. These were installed last week. And there we go. There we go. And you'll see that we have 7 voting booths. And I'll just walk over so you can see how these will work. These voting booths were built by a resident of the village, David
Blehovdy.
Thank you, Blehovdy. He claims he has a patent on these, and we're really excited about how these will work in the future. No longer will we have to bring up the voting booths from the basement every time there's an election. We'll just be able to walk right up to the wall, open them up, and they're ready to go. And there is significant privacy for anyone when they're actually using the booth. I understand we can get curtains, but we don't feel that we need them. You just walk in, and for the moment you're in there, it's your little world. And we'll be able to just close them up, and we're back to that nice clean wall. So that's pieces of progress.
This is good. I get back to my microphone here.
The Building Management Committee will be meeting on Thursday morning. The topics that we have are pretty much, we want to have our own informal little walkthrough. We want to take a look at the financials and see exactly where we are. We are confident that we are still under the $760,000 that the village has granted us to spend on the addition and renovation, but we need to make sure. There are some costs which are still, some bills which are still outstanding. We're looking at anticipated invoices, outstanding bills, and so on. I don't need to go into details on what's left, but there are still a few things. We want to also perform our own informal walkthrough, as I just mentioned. We're going to look at what are the little things that are left yet to be done. An example would be, as I mentioned, I think it might have been just before the meeting started, we do not yet have the speakers mounted. We do have a couple speakers. There will be one in the hallway and one in here. So we want to make sure they're in. And I actually do have quite a list of the the little things that needed to be added yet. The last thing we want to talk about is an open house. And we don't want to have the open house until we are confident and we feel good that we're finished with the building, both the addition and the renovation. We also want to make sure that all our new furniture has arrived. And as you have seen on camera, and you're looking, these are our old tables. These tables will be replaced. If you're watching the speakers up to the microphone, there's no podium there yet, and that's on order. That should arrive at the same time. Our secretary and John from the Hudson Star Observer will be sharing a table that we're having made for them. I did call the distributor on Monday, and am hoping that by Thursday morning I'll be able to report to the BMC what the arrival date will be for the rest of that furniture. The administrative staff has also ordered some furniture for the offices, and we'll need to know when is that due to arrive, because we don't want to have an open house where we invite the public in and say, yeah, but we're going to have this or we're going to have that. We want them to see it finished and everything picked up and cleaned up. So that's where we are. We are that close to being finished.
Yes, we are. That looks great.
I'm finished.
Thank you. Public welfare.
Public welfare did not meet. Wait, did we? I don't believe we did. But anyway, real briefly, quick chair update. I've been working again with Mark Shulkin from Waste Management, and we are going to move forward once we get the approval from his boss that the proposal that did not go through at the last board meeting will be approved. And secondly, we've got a recycling meeting coming up on March 13th. If anybody has nothing but extra time on their hands, they could go to this and find out everything that St. Croix County is doing for their recycling in the communities, and types of grants and various things that are available. I will participate and bring that information forward. I believe we have somebody new, Anna McCabe, who has come on the St. Croix County recycling program to help out Jennifer. And that is pretty much about everything that's going on with welfare. Our budget or our agenda will start getting a little bit busy with subtle little things that have been occurring throughout our village, as I've heard from my return from our vacation, and that is everything I know.
Okay. All right. Park Board, Colleen?
Well, at the January meeting, the village board requested a few changes to our outdoor recreation plan before approving it. One of the concerns was that it sounded kind of ambitious for 5 years, and the reason it's 5 years is because that's what the DNR requires. And we realize that we can't accomplish everything in this plan in 5 years, but it gives us a start and something to work towards. And a couple of the other items were the Riverside access, in the 7th in Riverside, that little teeny tiny space they call a park, if that needed to still be called a park. And we left it as it was, even if we don't improve it as a park, or just because at some point it was decided that was a park, and without going back to how it was originally decided to be a park, we didn't know if we could just change it to something else, so we just left that. But decided we're not going to try to make it accessible for canoes or that, just since there's no parking or anything down there, just to leave it as some space and perhaps clear out a little vegetation and put a bench there for the walkers and the cyclists. We also put in for the park dedication on page 6 that the village will require, when authorized by statute, dedication of new parkland and or the funding of park improvements. And then there was a question about the wording for compliance with the ADA, so we changed that. I can't remember what page it is on now, but just to say that the parks should comply with the ADA. And we'll get a new photograph. So on that note, I would move to approve the 2008-2013 outdoor recreation plan for the Village of North Hudson.
I'll second that. Any questions?
I hope not.
No.
Get started on.
I think we all recognize that the plan was intended to say, assuming no financial limits, here's what we'd like to do. And this is the first time we've actually had that level of a comprehensive amount of planning for the parks. So we know full well we're not going to be able to get it all done in 5 years. We won't have that kind of funding, but just the idea that we've now got a plan in place that we can carry over and do on a rolling 5-year basis, I think is a real positive step forward and a great accomplishment for the park board.
And we also want to, be more proactive in obtaining grants.
Sure.
For some of these projects that would be the big ones.
I think this is absolutely wonderful, and if I could make one friendly comment, on the bottom of page 10 where it has Riverside Drive access, that 0.2 acre scenic view of lake, under needs, that box is empty. If when they're doing any publications, there's any way possible they could notify people that this has walking access only and parking is limited or restricted, so that people don't end up with a bottleneck in trying to get to their homes down there, that would be wonderful.
I think that's an issue that the board is going to have to take up and just simply take these literally tiny spots of land and just simply designate them as conservancy, because they are not parks. They were never intended to be parks. They were accessed primarily for utilities.
Right.
That, the one down at the end of 7th Street, that was the utility in North Hudson for decades. Okay. So that's where it came from. So that's
And
what
my goal here is simply that it doesn't get misconstrued and all of a sudden have a half a dozen cars down there with kayaks thinking that this is access to the lake. So that would be my only goal with that. But really nice job. I read through this and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. This doesn't really call for any spending, so I'm not going to do a roll call vote. Any other questions? If not, all in favor of approving the recreational plan for the 5-year period 2008 through 2013, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. We already did the Veterans Memorial with John. Anything else that you wanted to cover?
Nope, that covers it.
Okay. Moving on to new business, just want to let people know that the application for the traffic study with the Department of Transportation has been submitted. And next point would call everybody's attention to the calendar. First Tuesday in April will be elections, so obviously we won't be meeting there. And if you look on your calendars in the back, you'll see that the board will be meeting on March 25th, which will replace the April meeting. Point that out. Other than that, I have nothing. And on behalf of the board, we certainly welcome Lynn to the village. Do you have anything else?
Public Works meeting is the normal time, but our reorg meeting will be on the 15th.
We'll just point out that normally on the 15th, that would be the scheduled Public Works meeting. That is also when we currently would tentatively schedule the reorg meeting following the election. So my guess is we will have the reorganization meeting on April 15th, and then Public Works would be rescheduled to a different time, possibly even earlier in the day, maybe 5. So I just point that out for now.
The only other thing I have is like to thank everybody for coming out and voting. We had 899 for a primary, which is outstanding. I hope to see everyone back for the April 1st election. We will have, besides the trustees race, we have the county supervisor also, and the judge, yeah. So, and our election clerks, I'd like to special thanks to all of our clerks for doing such a great job during the election.
They'll also have the non-binding referendum, won't they?
No.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure we.
And I have to mention, too, that Gloria looked fantastic on TV.
Oh, yeah.
And it was at Channel 5 also.
Yes, it was.
You looked very good. North Hudson was well represented this last month on television.
I missed that. What was that about?
Gloria was interviewed about the election.
Oh, really?
Okay. All right, we're not going to convene into closed session. No need to do that. So the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned at 8:14 p.m.